Hi, this is Marty from Photoshop Art House. I'm going to show you a fast way to create wall murals in perspective. For your convenience, I provided the project files that we'll use in this video. This photo of a figure resting against a wall, and this image that we'll place onto the wall. Feel free to use any other images if you like. The first step is to separate the figure from the background. There are many ways to do this. However, for this example, open any of the selection tools and click the arrow next to the Select Subject button. Make sure Cloud is checked. This gives us a far superior selection. If you don't see it, press Ctrl or Command K to open Preferences and click Image Processing. Make sure Cloud is enabled. We can keep faster for all the processing. Now click the Select Subject button. We can check it by pressing Q to see it as a quick mask. Then press Q again. We'll cut and copy the figure onto its own layer by pressing Ctrl or Command J. Hide the figure. We'll make a new layer below it by Ctrl or Command clicking the New Layer icon. Open the rectangular marquee tool and drag it over the wall. We'll fill it with any color. I'll fill it with white, which is my background color. To fill it with the background color, I'll press Ctrl or Command plus Delete. Once you fill it with a color, deselect it by pressing Ctrl or Command D. We'll convert the white shape into a smart object so we can replace it without having to rewarp it to match the perspective of the wall. Click the icon at the upper right and click Convert to Smart Object. Reduce its opacity so we can see the wall under it. Next, we'll warp the shape to the perspective of the wall. We could use the vanishing point filter, but frankly, this method is much quicker and easier. Open the Transform tool by pressing Ctrl or Command T. Go to a bottom corner of the Transform's bounding box and press and hold Ctrl or Command plus the Shift key as we drag it up to the point where the wall meets the ground. Holding Shift kept the bounding box perfectly vertical as we dragged it. Go to the other bottom corner of the bounding box and repeat the keystrokes as we again drag it to the point where the wall meets the ground. Feel free to go back to any of the corners to reposition it. Notice the top of the wall angles up, so to ensure we have enough room at the top to warp the shape to the wall's perspective, let's zoom out by pressing Ctrl or Command and the minus key once or twice. Drag the top left corner up until the top of the bounding box matches the perspective of the wall. Then press Enter or Return. Increase the shape's opacity back to 100% and zoom back in by pressing Ctrl or Command and the plus key. Double-click the thumbnail of the smart object to open its original source. Open the mural image. We'll place it onto the source of the smart object by pressing V to open our Move tool and dragging it onto the tab of the PSB file. Without releasing your mouse or pen, press and hold the Shift key as you drag it down. Then release. Pressing Shift kept the grungy wall centered over the white shape. We'll resize the grungy wall by pressing Ctrl or Command T to open the Transform tool. Presently, we're not seeing the Transform's bounding box because the grungy wall image extends past our canvas's boundaries. To see the bounding box, press Ctrl or Command 0. Go to a corner and press and hold Alt or Option as you drag it in. We can either size it to fill the white shape or fit it entirely into the shape and then stretch it out. For this example, I'll stretch it out. If you want to do this as well, place your cursor on the middle side anchor point and press and hold Alt or Option plus Shift as you drag it out. This drags out both sides at the same time. Then press Enter or Return. We'll crop off any of the grungy wall that may extend past our visible canvas by pressing Ctrl or Command A to select the shape of the document. Go to Image and Crop. then deselect it. Close the source of the Smart Object, which is the PSB file, and when you see this message, click Yes to save the changes. Open back the concrete wall document. The grungy wall has now replaced the original wall in its same perspective. Change its blend mode to multiply and reduce its opacity to 90%. Make the figure visible. Double-click an empty area of the mural layer to open its layer style window. We'll use the Blend If feature to further blend in the mural with the wall. Blend If uses the luminosity of layers to blend them together. The current layer represents our active layer, which in this case is the mural, and the underlying layer represents all the layers below the mural, which in this case is the photo of the figure against the concrete wall. When we drag the current layer's dark slider to the right, the more the dark tones disappear. Conversely, dragging the current layer's light slider to the left, the more the light tones disappear. Dragging the underlying layer's dark slider to the right makes the concrete wall punch through the darkest tones of the mural. Dragging the underlying layer's light slider to the left makes the concrete wall punch through the lightest tones of the mural. We can make the transition smooth by placing our cursor in the middle of the slider and pressing Alt or Option as we click it. This splits it in half. Dragging the inside half across smooths out the transition. I'll drag it to 95 and the left half to 234. As I toggle the before and after, we can see that Blend If blended them together more. This is Marty from Photoshop Art House. Thanks for watching.